No, no, I'm IT.
It's just something to stop vibration. So we're looking at it. But I
Where did you get a chocolate vanilla?
for looking
For the peace love. Get out of here. I'll see you tonight. I'll see you tonight.
Got on the road earlier than I did.
All right, good evening. Today is Tuesday, April 18, 2023. The time is 6 p.m. and the regular meeting of the following will come to order.
Point of privilege.
There's, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
State your point.
Yes, I will. The screen for my computer is very bright and it's really bothering my sight at the moment. So if we can fix that.
Yes,
Thank you.
point is well taken. So, ladies and gentlemen, bear with us just a moment. Member Gomez, how are we? Is that better?
Yes, we just need to go back. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
It's good. All right. All right. So with that said, we are resuming at 6:02 p.m. The regular meeting of the following will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the City's Housing Assets Successor Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Gomez.
Present.
Councilmember Harriman.
Here.
Councilmember Irving.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum and would like to note Mayor Pro Tem Becerra is joining from an off-site location as posted on the agenda.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, with that said, we're going to move on to our invocation. Pastor Dane Davis of Impact Church, Christian Church is with us. And after that, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Police Captain John Wickham. Pastor, if everyone will please rise if they're able.
Thank you very much. Isaiah 55 verses 10 and 11. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we do come to you tonight thanking you for the privilege of being able to lead. Father, there's so many people around us that are hurting, so many, Lord, who are discouraged, so many, Lord, who are in the local hospitals, so many, Lord, who are on hospice. And yet, Lord, you have breathed life into our lungs and allowed our hearts to beat, given us hands and feet and minds and mouths and eyes and ears to be able to work and to lead. So, Lord, we don't take this wonderful privilege for granted. Lord, we didn't ask to be born. You just gave us life as a gift. And Lord, we didn't ask to be placed in this city, but you placed us here, we believe, for such a time as this, to accomplish the purpose that you had in mind long before we were ever born. So Lord, I pray that we would join you in your plan to do your good work in this city, for the good of this community, the good of the entire Victor Valley, and even throughout this Southern California area. Lord, we pray that you would work through us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, Pastor Davis, thank you so much, and Captain Wickham, thank you so much. All right, with that said, we're going to move on to our Madam Clerk. Will you kindly present the agenda and any revisions thereto?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions to the agenda this evening.
All right, thank you. And just as a note for our audience, there were to be several additional items on this evening's agenda, but as the requester of those items, Mayor Pro Tem Liz Becerra is not present with us in person, those matters will come forward at the next meeting. With that said, we're going to move on to conflict of interest declarations. Any council members, conflicts to declare? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to move on to the introduction to public comments. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Victorville City Council. Your City Council is interested in your ideas and opinions and furthermore endeavors to incorporate them into its deliberations. At the same time, the council must be able to carry out its business in an organized and efficient manner free from material disruption. Therefore, this meeting will be administered in accordance with the council's established policies and procedures and Government Code sections 54957.9 and .95. Individuals may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during the public comment sections, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Individual speakers may address the council once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 3 minutes. Those who desire to comment on a public hearing item may wish to reserve their remarks until that particular public hearing item has been opened. All testimony is to be directed solely to the council. Although open meeting laws do not permit council members to engage in dialogue with any speaker during the public comment periods, please know your comments and your questions may be taken into consideration by council members when discussing that particular agenda item. The presiding officer may briefly respond or have staff respond to statements or questions, or may request that staff report back to the council at a subsequent meeting. Speakers are requested to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individual council members who speak as a member of the public do so without the semblance or presumption of authority derived from his or her public office and are subject to the same meeting rules of conduct and decorum as all other public participants. Once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. The speaker will state the item number or numbers that will be addressed, or that the subject is a non-agendized matter. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, and those who do are subject to removal from the meeting pursuant to Penal Code 403. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. Madam Clerk, may we have our first speaker?
Our first speaker is Al Catillo on a non-agendized item. Mr. Catillo?
Mr. Catillo, welcome to our meeting.
I don't hear very good. Thank you for calling me. I'm here again to talk about the police. When they beat me up 2 years ago, I want the people of the city to know that you people are hiring police that are beating the hell out of all the people in the city. I made up a list of stuff that I got door to door to door. Every place I went to, they said, what are you telling us about now? The cops been beating the shit out of us for years anyway. The cops been beating us up all the time. They always get away with it. How do they get away with it? What's going on here? Something's not right for us. Plus that, how do they think they're gonna get away with beating the hell out of me before my trial is over?
Mr. Catillo, one moment, and Madam Clerk, stop the clock. We all want to hear what you have to say, but if you would kindly,
I can't hear very good.
oh, can you hear, is this better for you, sir? If you could kindly refrain from the coarse language, it would be appreciated.
I still can't hear. You said something about.
Okay, so if you could refrain from profanity, it would help us a lot, sir.
I can't go to court. There's not a lawyer up here that'll support me against the police.
My apologies, sir. Please, my apologies, sir. Please proceed. Please proceed, sir.
This place is corrupt as hell up here. They have beat up more people here than any, I can't believe it. I went door to door. Everybody says, what are you telling us for? The police beat him up. They beat him up. They beat him up. They never get caught. Why don't they get caught? When the night it happened to me, the police committed all the crime. I didn't do nothing. And then I come up. He says, well, I'm investigating now, the interior investigator, whatever you call him. And so he's investigating the police. No, he's investigating me, not the police. I said, what are you investigating me for? I didn't break the law. The cops broke the law that night. They broke all the laws. I didn't break any. 5 of them beat me up. They threw me out in the middle of the road 12 times. This is the jacket. This is all the tar from the road. That's the rip underneath from the big guy that threw me out. And then the lieutenant says, I called and I talked to the big, he said, I did my investigation and I talked to one of the big guys that threw you out in the road 12 times. And he said that never happened. So I consider that this whole deal never happened. That's the decision the lieutenant made, that I lied about everything. None of this ever happened. They took all my neighbors out of the house to watch them beat me up. How do they think that no one else is gonna stick up for me? They're liars. They lied to me. They lied to each other. That guy asked about, did that happen? And he said, that guy lied to him. Him and his buddy threw me out in the middle of the road 12 times. And then they pounced on top of me, kneed me in the ribs, just beat the hell out of me. And what happens?
Your time is up, Mr. Catillo.
Mr. Catillo, Mr. Catillo, your time is up, but I want you to know that we have heard loud and clearly what you've said. And I want you to know that we're very thankful that you came to us tonight to share.
There's
your
nothing up here
experience.
that's gonna help you against the police. The
Thank you,
police
sir.
have this town wrapped
Thank you,
up,
sir. Your time is up. I want you to
City.
know that we've heard
and
you.
you people don't seem to know
Thank
what
you,
the
sir.
hell
Your
you're
time
doing
is up,
either.
and if you would step away, thank you.
I'm doing this to warn all these
Sir, you need to
people out
step
there
away.
that live here.
You need to
that
step
fucking
away.
beat the hell out
Sir,
of
your
me
time is
too.
up. Thank you. Sir, your time is up, and you will refrain. Madam Clerk, the next speaker.
I have no additional speakers, Madam Mayor.
Yes, there's actually one anonymous speaker that would like to speak, and she's coming
So-
forth now.
One moment. Sir, you need to refrain from commenting. Your time is up. So, Member Gomez, if there's an anonymous speaker, that person needs to come forward, does not need your
Yes, they
assistance.
raised their hand.
So, Madam or Madams, thank you so much for being at our meeting. We're glad to have you with us. And as a matter of record, it's not necessary for you to state your name. We're happy to have you with us.
Good evening. My name is Edith Rogers, and I'm here just to bring before you my concerns about the misuse of the CDBG funding. I do believe that Mr. Bortnowski is misusing the funds. Amen. there was a situation where we have an open probate in Riverside County. He came and he supposedly purchased some property out of the estate, but he forged the deeds. He used other agencies to assist him in this. I wrote a letter trying to get a response from Mr. Bortnowski. I called him. He has failed to call me back. I submitted documents to the county Board of Supervisors. They sent it to the district attorney's office. Oh, you can't hear me? I'm so sorry.
And just so you know, I have heard you thus far. I want you to know that. We've been listening carefully.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You did give me my little minute back. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So supposedly he used these funds, $25,000, to pay for the property. He paid them to the administrator who we had taken down for stealing property and funds out of the estate. And we also have the judge that presided during the time that she was the administrator, Judge William Sullivan. He was removed off the bench for doing some unethical situations too. At that time, when I found out, I contacted him. He refuses to give me any information on where he paid the money to, where's any receipts, where the money came from. We contacted the auditor's office trying to see was there any record regarding this $25,000. And I would love to have you all, come forward and maybe sit down with us so we can find out what's going on. I do believe that he is weaponizing the judicial system, using the probate system in particular, to steal property from families. And I believe he's abusing his authority under the color of law to do so. Can't we at least?
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And what county are you alleging that this occurred in?
This is San Bernardino County.
San Bernardino.
Victorville purchased the property out of this open probate in Riverside County. Now, either he's misusing eminent domain or reverse condemnation to gain property, but I do know that because of their own personal investments, that they are enriching themselves off of the misuse of the judicial system and the funds coming from these block grants. And I don't believe that it was intended for this to take place, like he's doing. I would like to ask him if it's appropriate why we haven't got any response from this at all. Because it has something to do with the high-speed rail also.
Your time is up.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Rogers, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, we're not able to have kind of to and fro discussions on something like that. But I would ask you then to contact the city manager. He's not here in person this evening, but you can certainly give your information to our city clerk and we'll get back to you and maybe give you some counsel as to how you can best proceed with your concerns.
Put this on the agenda so we can have others come forward with evidence or anything of that nature so that you can have a clear.
So that would be up to any individual council member that might wish to do that. But thank you. I appreciate you. I know that it took a lot for you probably to come here this evening, especially when we had a colleague council member say that you wanted to speak under anonymity and you did not. So I want to thank you very much.
I did, but I decided I'd best to.
And I'm thankful for that. I appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor, for the record,
Yes, sir.
I have no involvement in this transaction at all. I'm not the he that she is referring to, and people in my office have been in contact with her.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any other requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, with that said, the chair is going to close the public comment period and bring this back to the council. We're now going to move on to our first business in order, which is public hearings, beginning with item number 1. This is the approval request for the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development required draft fiscal year 2023-2024 annual action plan allocating federal community development block grant and home investment partnership program funds, and a request to authorize the allocation of community development block grant coronavirus funds to subrecipients of the previously approved community outreach program. Mr. Metzler, are you with us?
I am, and good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Can we increase the volume a bit? So, Mr. Metzler, hold on just a little bit. We can hear you, but I don't think very well. Can any members in the audience not able to hear Mr. Metzler? So I've seen no hands raised, but I just want to, all right. So, Mr. Metzler, if you would kindly tee up the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item is an item that's somewhat routine to us on an annual basis and involves funds we receive as an entitlement city from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The funds that we receive are community development block grant funds, and this particular item is dealing with first, the allocation of approximately $1.987 million in funds expected to be received in the upcoming fiscal year, which is 23-24. But this item also considers the reallocation of funds from prior years where funds were awarded by this council, but not completely spent. So with that, this item results directly from the hard work of the staff that administers the CDBG funds, a process that starts back in December where we actually open invitations for applications. We conduct mandatory workshops for prospective applicants, and then we rely on the committee that's appointed by this council. In this particular case, Mayor Jones and Mayor Pro Tem Becerra serve as the subcommittee council member representatives to actually review all of the eligible applications, and based upon priorities adopted by the council, make recommendations to the council for ultimate award. So this item is really the culmination of all that, to where those recommendations are being carried forward in the form of this item. And so with that, the author on this item is your city planner, Mr. Scott Webb. He's certainly available for any additional detailed questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council conduct a public hearing to receive citizen, public, and agency comments regarding the draft fiscal year 2023-2024 annual action plan, approve resolution number 23-019, adopting the 2023-2024 annual action plan as presented for submittal to HUD, which contains the funding recommendations made by the Community Planning and Development Grant Subcommittee, approve the allocation of $114,816.74 and available CDBG CV Community Outreach Program funding to High Desert Homeless Services, Simba Center, and Women of Noble Character to provide services eligible for CDBG CV funding, authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents for submittal to HUD, and approve the inclusion of operating restrictions for food distributors, providers as recommended by the CPD Grant Subcommittee within applicable subrecipient contracts.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, with that said, we're going to move on to technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. We're going to begin with Member Gomez.
Yes, so in terms of the CDBG funding and the appropriations, it is my understanding that the public commenter would like to have entered this within the hearing's rights. Is that possible, or should she have an opportunity to speak at another time, which is now?
The chair has not opened the public hearing item yet for testimony.
Okay, so my question is, will she have to speak during that time to ensure that this is entered into the hearing? Because she spoke under public comments, which is completely different from the hearing which she was attempting to provide the comment for.
Sure. So we are on public hearing item number 1. Nothing prevents any member from speaking during this as long as it relates to the actual item.
Thank you. My second question is, so in other words, the speaker will be able to address during this hearing by raising her hand and making sure that is entered into the hearing record, yes or no?
So, Member Gomez, as you well know, that it's preferable that anyone fill out a speaker card, and that's only for our ability to administer the meeting more efficiently. It's not required. Certainly when I open the public hearing and ask for any speakers, that member is free to raise his or her hand and come forward.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. All right, with that said, Member Harriman.
I have none.
Thank you. Member Irving.
As stated earlier, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Becerra, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am. No question.
Okay, so we have a bit of an echo. Can you hear us all right, Member Becerra?
Yes, ma'am, I can. I was switching over from my laptop to my phone.
All right, so we can hear you. The volume is a bit slight. Can you say a few words so we can test the hearing or the volume? Mayor Pro Tem, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, I can hear you. Audience members, will you raise your hand if you cannot hear Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, seeing no hands raised, we're going to go ahead and forward. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any questions as to the staff report?
No, ma'am, no questions.
All right, thank you. And the chair has no questions as to the staff report. I'm now going to open the public hearing for public testimony. Madam Clerk, any requests to speak?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, you're free to come forward. And so, ma'am, I know that you identified yourself previously. If you wish to do so again, you're free to. And this has to be directly related to this public hearing item. So we're not speaking in generalities as to CDBG grants, but specifically to those organizations that have granted or not been granted funds.
I'm trying to understand, will they be using the property that's received or purchased under this block grant in order to transfer it later for the use of the high-speed rail? Or will they be using it for investment purposes? Can private people in turn invest into the high-speed rail through this? And maybe some of the attorneys or judges can invest also?
So, Ms. Rogers, normally we don't answer these kind of questions, but I think it's serious enough that I'm going to ask the city manager because I don't know that this is on point with this particular item. Mr. Metzler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. To my knowledge, based upon everything contained in the staff write-up, there's nothing that tells me or shows me that monies, CDBG monies in this particular case, are being used to fund high-speed rail.
I suspected that, but I needed to hear it from you, Mr. Metzler. All right, Ms. Rogers, please feel free to continue.
I wanted to know if they were using the funds to purchase property and at a later date reallocate that property to be used for the high-speed rail or in conjunction with the high-speed rail.
Okay, so I'm going to allow this again, but then we're going to move on from this line of questioning. Mr. Metzler?
The simple answer is no.
Thank you. Did you have anything further, Ms. Rogers?
Have they privatized the things that they're going to be using this fund for, this block grant? Are they working in conjunction with private investors?
Okay, so Ms. Rogers, again, as I said on the last question, that we were going to answer that one and then move on from this line of questioning, but I would encourage you after this meeting, if you would like to contact City Manager Metzler's office to receive your answers to all of those questions. And then also in the future, so you know that you're always free to contact the City Manager's office in advance of the meetings to ask those questions, because we certainly want you to have your answers.
Is there any way for us to receive copies of the receipts where the funding is coming from for the purchase of property?
So I'm going to again refer you to Mr. Metzler's office, and you can do that subsequent to this meeting. And if you would like to, you're free to give your contact information to our city clerk and ensure that there's a contact made between you and the city manager.
Submitted a document document that was supposed to be dispersed
Uh,
to each council member, and no one responded.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So again, we're not going, at this point, we're looking
Thank you.
like this is more of a to and fro, and I have to be very careful about the Brown Act. Thank you so much, ma'am, but I do appreciate you. I want you to know that we've heard you, and your sentiments are important to us, most certainly. Madam Clerk.
There are no additional speakers.
All right, with that said, the chair closes the public hearing and brings this item back to the council and invites a motion from the council as to points 2 through 5, as we've already dispensed with point number 1.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I move to adopt staff's recommendations for items 2 through 5.
yes.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion, beginning with Member Irving.
Discussion?
Thank you. Member Harriman.
No discussion.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Yes, so it's my understanding that this item exclusively relates to 3 nonprofit organizations, which include, they're delineated within items, I would say 2 through 5. Is that the strict understanding that this item is being related to?
It's posted on the agenda, Member Gomez.
So I would say yes, that's the case, which I am reading. Thank you. No further comments.
All right, thank you. And the chair, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Becerra.
No, ma'am, no questions. No questions on the pending motion.
Thank you. And the chair has none. And I close the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez,
Yes.
Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the City Council has taken action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda. We are now going to move on to our next business in order, which is the consent calendar, items number 2 through 7. A motion is in order for the council and the council acting on its various boards of directors to approve action on consent calendar items 2 through 7 in accordance with the recommendations presented on the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez, Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So the council has taken action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda. Moving on to our next business in order, which is written communications, item number 8. This is the annual financial reports for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2022. Mr. Metzler, will you kindly introduce the item?
I will. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item also is something we do on an annual basis, and we typically begin the work that is the audit after we close out our books for the fiscal year. So effectively, when June 30, 2022 occurred, that would have been the date we closed out our books and brought in the auditor to do a number of things, including reviewing our financial statements, which largely serve as a summarized compilation of all of the financial entries that take place into our system on an annual basis. They also conduct tests on a variety of accounting procedures. And so with that, this item before you is the summarized work of all of the activity that took place through the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. As is the traditional course, we do have a brief presentation from the auditor to talk through the audit. And we also have the author on this item, Mr. John Mendiola, both available for questions or comments after the presentation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the City Council, hang on just one moment.
Thank you. It just went off screen.
Yeah. That the City Council and Board of Directors approve a motion to receive and file the following. City of Victorville Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for fiscal year end June 30th, 2022. Independent Auditor's Report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards for fiscal year end June 30th, 2022. Victorville Water District basic financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022, and Southern California Logistics Airport Authority basic financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, with that said, we're going to move on to a presentation that I understand we have. And will you kindly introduce yourself? I know you by your first name.
Yeah, so I'm Cassie Rademacher. I'm a principal at CLA at Clifton Larson Allen. So at CLA, principal also means partner. It's just a difference from our legal standpoint. But so I'm here to present the results of your audit for the year ended June 30th, 2022. And I do have a little PowerPoint presentation that we'll go through. So in the presentation, I'll go over the scope of the services that we provided to the city, and I'll go over the 3 reports that we issued. So we did perform an audit of the annual financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2022, in accordance, thank you, with generally accepted and government auditing standards. So we did audit the city and its blended component units, the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, the SCLA, and the Victorville Water District. So the first report I'll go over is the independent auditor's report. If you looked at last year's report and compared it to this year, you'll see it's quite different. It has different language, a different layout. That's due to the implementation of a new auditing standard. In that report, we do note that we issued an unmodified opinion for the city. That's commonly referred to as a clean opinion, and what that means is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We believe that the audit evidence that we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinions. So an audit in accordance with those standards, which is generally accepted in government auditing standards, we have to maintain professional skepticism, which means that we have to trust but verify any verbal information that's provided to us. We have to identify and assess our risks of material misstatement over those financial statements and design audit procedures that are appropriate to respond to those risks. We also have to obtain an understanding of the internal controls in order to design audit procedures for a financial statement audit. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used and the significant estimates made by management, and we also evaluate the overall presentation of the financial statements. Our report includes a section entitled Emphasis of Matters. The point of this part of the report is just to highlight a couple items. There we go. So the city did implement GASB Statement Number 87 leases. That's a new standard that was required to be implemented in the current year. In areas where the city is the lessee, there is a lease liability and an intangible right to use a lease asset. Where the city is a lessor, there's a lease receivable and a deferred inflow of resources. So you would see some changes mostly in your airport for the implementation of this standard. There was also drawing attention to the restatement due to a correction of errors. There were some capital expenses not capitalized in prior years, and all of this, the restatements are detailed in Note 23 to the financial statements. There was also a liability for some rental credits that were due to tenants for capital improvements that were made and contributed to the airport. And there was also in the electric fund some revenue that had been previously recognized, but since the funds have to be returned to ratepayers if not utilized, it should have been recorded as unearned, so we had to remove that revenue recognition. The next report I'll go over is our report on internal control. As I mentioned previously, we do review internal controls for the purpose of a financial statement audit. So in this report, we note any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. And so to define what those really are that would be included in here, a material weakness is a deficiency in internal control over financial reporting, such that there is a reasonable possibility that there would be a material misstatement that wouldn't be identified and corrected or prevented by the city's internal control system in a timely manner. So a significant deficiency is just less severe than a material weakness, but still warrants the attention of those charged with governance. So we did identify 3 material weaknesses. All 3 are repeat comments from the prior year. The pension amounts are, an audit adjustment was needed to correct the deferred inflows and outflows of resources and pension expense in the allocation to the various funds. For capital assets and construction in progress, there were some equipment that was labeled as a project that had not been received, so really needed to be classified as a prepaid expense. There was also a project that had been canceled, so because it provides no future value anymore, it needs to be expensed and removed from CIP. There were some missing capital asset additions, and in that and both the restatement. Our third item was the grants receivable and unavailable revenue. So the city has a lot of projects where you have eligible expenditures that are reimbursed by grant proceeds. So what we'd like to see is a lining up of those eligible expenditures, the revenues and receivables, that it should all balance. That wasn't happening in all cases, so we had some audit adjustments to correct those receivables and the unavailable revenue. We also had a grant that was really benefiting an enterprise fund that was in the governmental fund that we needed to reclassify and move to the appropriate fund that actually received the benefit. In an audit under these standards, we also we do perform tests for noncompliance with certain grants, contracts, and agreements, debt agreements that could have a material impact on the determination of financial statement amounts. During our testing of those items, we noted no items of noncompliance that are required to be reported under the standards. Okay, the last communication I'll go over is the communication to those charged with governance. The plan, scope, and timing of the audit was communicated to the city in a planning meeting. Management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies, and that is described in Note 1 to the financial statements. We highlight again, because of the impact, the implementation of the new GASB statement. Management has selected and applied all the other significant accounting policies appropriately and consistently. Significant estimates are reported in the financial statements. Those are typically your pension, your OPEB, and your claims. All the corrected misstatements that we have are from the items that I commented on from our material weaknesses. So those are included in a different manner in this letter. And we had no uncorrected misstatements. We did obtain representations from management regarding the audit, and what they assert to us is that they have been forthcoming with all information that is significant to the audit. And then the last is just a communication that we are required to make that to our knowledge, the city did not consult with other accountants regarding any auditing or accounting matters. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation. All right, we're now going to move on to technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report and most certainly the presentation that we just received. But before I do that, Mr. Metzler, did you want to add anything before we proceed into questions?
Nothing further for me to add.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to begin. Member Gomez, technical questions?
None at the moment, thank you.
Thank you. Member Harriman?
None.
Thank you. Member Irving?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
She just fell off, so if we'd like, we can give her a moment to hop back on, or we can proceed.
I'll tell you what, let's give her a moment. I'll go ahead and ask mine in hopes that she hops back on. So I just have a couple questions, and it's really, it's for both the city manager and Cassie, for you, if I can call you by your first name, because I never remember your last name. I'm so sorry. So as to the material misstatements, am I correct in understanding you that everything, all of those misstatements have been corrected?
Correct.
These are posting errors, correct?
Correct.
All right, so it's not as if like this city is hiding money or shifting it. It's just posting it in one account versus it should have been posted in another account, correct? All right, so that's very good. Is it typical to have material misstatements year over year in the same area?
In my experience, it is not typical.
Okay, and so have you had conversations with the city as to give us recommendations as to how we might correct that?
Yes.
Okay, and as I ask that, I need to make it very clear that we have a high-level staff that I have great confidence in, and I think it shows in the fact that all of these errors have been corrected, and no one is asserting that no, this isn't the case. They are posting errors. It's not good, but it's not as if the city is hiding or pocketing or anything that people would typically be very concerned about, right? I mean, people have concerns about government and the use of public monies. So that's not the case here. It's just posting areas. It was posted somewhere, just not necessarily in the right place.
Correct. The misstatements, yeah, we're noting are posting, they're changing the account that they are recorded in, and they're not
Okay.
meant to communicate anything other than that.
Got it. And so, Mr. Metzler, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any ideas as to what we might do so that we don't have these repeats in the future?
Yes, we have considered this. Certainly, because it's a repeat nature, we have looked at functions in the department. Workload is the biggest contributing factor in all of this, and I think the easiest characterization I can give as to the repeat nature of these findings is that the testing isn't being done as frequently as it should be. So effectively, one of the things that we are proposing in the upcoming budget to help overcome this and eliminate these repeat type findings is effectively to bring on a staff person, a position that is dedicated to serve as an internal auditor, and a position that would actually report directly to my office, so that we can, on a regular basis, on a daily basis even, actually conduct internal audits of all postings, so that by the time we bring on our external auditor, they're not effectively coming in and advising of the corrections we need to make.
So the question I have then is if, I'm presuming that that's going to come forward to the council at some point, but your thought on this is that it adds another layer of accountability?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then Cassie, can I ask you just, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it for our
Your time is up.
community members, and I won't ask it now because my time is up. All right, with that said, I have no further questions. Madam Clerk, do we have Mayor Pro Tem?
We do.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Yes, we do.
Yes, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you have questions?
No, ma'am, I don't. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so with that said, that it's appropriate at this time for the chair to ask the council and the boards of directors as presented on this agenda for a motion to receive and file the reports and statements as noted in points 1 through 4. Anyone that agrees, feel free to say so moved.
So moved.
So, second.
We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion. Member Irving.
I only want to commend Mr. Mendiola and his staff for their hard work and preparation for these reports and the independent audit. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
No questions, no comments.
Thank you. Member Harriman.
No questions.
And no comments?
And no
Thank
comments.
you. Mayor Pro Tem, any comments on the pending motion?
Yes, ma'am. I agree with Councilmember Irving. Again, even when I'm not there, she steals my comments. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. And I ditto her sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair wishes to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Great job to our staff. I'm so happy that we have a staff that works hard and is humble and is transparent, and we're only going to grow stronger and better. All right, with that said, the chair closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez,
No.
Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Thank you. So the council and the various boards of directors as presented on the agenda has taken action to receive and file the statements and reports as noted on the agenda. We're now going to move on to item number 9, and this is the funding for technology professional services. Mr. Metzler, will you tee up the item, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This item is adding to a contract already entered into by my office, by myself, using my purchasing authority. And effectively, this item is adding to that contract to an amount that actually exceeds my purchasing authority. So that's the big reason why this item is coming back, is to seek additional appropriations that ultimately will exceed my purchasing authority. But effectively, what this contract does is it addresses certain voids that currently exist in our information technology department, both in the form of training support for current staff, existing staff, along with helping support deal with some existing vacancies that we have. So effectively, this contract is to supplement our ongoing staffing efforts. It's a temporary solution and really intended just for that purpose, to supplement our existing staff. Certainly not intended to be a long-term solution. Certainly not envisioned at all that this is intended to begin an attempt at outsourcing services. So this is just to help us get through a little bit of a tough period of time. And so with that, the item has been authored by your Information Technology Officer, Mr. Masarul Islam. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council approve Amendment Number 1 to the Consultant Professional Services Provider Agreement with Robert Half International, Inc., increasing the amount not to exceed $218,000 to provide temporary staffing, direct hire, and other professional services. Authorize the city manager to execute any documents related to this transaction.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Moving on to technical questions for clarification as it relates directly to the staff report. Member Harriman, we're going to begin with you.
Yeah, just a couple questions. To provide temporary staffing, is that to provide does Ralph Half provide that staffing, or are they looking for us to be able to hire people to fill these positions?
So, good evening, Madam Mayor and member of the council. So the way this consulting professional services works is that we at IT department identify the needs, and based on our needs, we will then present those criteria to Robert Half, and in turn, they will then seek the appropriate candidate that meets those needs and then refer them to us. And once they refer them to us, then we typically go through a typical interview process and select the best candidate.
And what is the framework for this? Is there a retainer and then Ralph Half? I guess this is a dumb question because there's already an amount of money, but is there a retainer paid to them, and do they get a percentage of the wage once or the salary once an individual is hired permanently?
So they do have a fee schedule chart that they essentially provides to us, and typically that's that agreement is between the candidate and Robert Half, not necessarily directly with city and Robert Half per se.
Okay, I see. And would it be fair to say that the city or a change in the public industry is going to have to look at hiring employees hybrid to keep up with the private sector so we get the best candidates to work for our city? I know that that's speculation, but it seems that the industry, the working as hybrid is kind of the trend now. And I'm just wondering if we're looking into the future and possibly having to go that route to get the best candidates to be employed by the city.
So we recently actually hired 2 coordinators that are, I'm happy to say, local. And to the extent that we have talent here, we will obviously court them and make sure that they have an opportunity to join this great city. But in terms of the overall industry, as you noted, it is the case that there's a bit of a hybrid model that many organizations are leveraging. With that being said, many cities as well as private entities are also scaling back because of the COVID-19 restriction has been lifted. So we're starting to see some of the, during the COVID, what transpired in terms of hybrid, gradually going back to sort of on-site, on-prem. But certainly our ability to recruit talent and the need that we have, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it's on-prem, but to the extent that there's a need to have hybrid, I think that's a different conversation and different policy matter that has to be decided by city manager's office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Harriman. All right, Member Irving.
No, I don't have any questions. The city manager has already mentioned that this is a temporary measure to address staffing needs in IT.
Sure. Thank you. Member Gomez.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm just gonna have to, my question sentiments, Bob, to make sure this isn't a permanent thing, and let's see what we can do to get this on board, to get the best for the employees. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Messer, I just have a question for you, and maybe you answer it, or maybe Mr. Islam answers it at your discretion. So you talked about voids being created in IT. What, in your estimation, what is the cause of those voids?
Well, we do have vacant positions that exist. We have vacant positions that exist not just in this department, we have them throughout the city, and they occur for a variety of different reasons. In this particular case, just generally speaking, to IT, and just as some other departments have as well. We are going through some changes in shifting the culture within that department. Mr. Islam has been extremely helpful to us in helping try to shape the culture, the organizational culture, to be much more consistent and aligned with that is the adopted cultural values for the city. The two of the four most important involve customer service and accountability. And so, notwithstanding the competitiveness for this type of, or in this type of field, information technology, one challenge that we do run into is finding the right fit within the department that also finds compatibility with the rest of the organization. So that is a contributing factor. We're absolutely committed to the adopted cultural values that this council has approved in its strategic plan. And sometimes we find, certainly within actually hiring, even though identifying candidates, we actually find that their background and experience and ways of doing things may not exactly fit with how we do things. So that also is a contributing factor beyond just the strain that is the marketplace for information technology.
Okay, and I ask that for a reason, because temporary agencies come with a cost, and then when you work with, we all know, a temporary agency that deals with with specific talents and in-demand talents. Those fees are, it's naturally scaled up. So I just wanted to make sure that we as a council understand and our community understands that we would not be doing this if it were not an absolute need. So I appreciate the answer, Mr. Islam. I appreciate your efforts in making sure that we're on target, because IT, as we know in this world, is rather significant and important. So thank you so much. All right, with that said, the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve.
Adopt the staff's recommendation, Mr. Herman.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a first and we have a second. Discussion on the pending motion, Member Harriman. Discussion on the pending motion.
So anyway, I just reiterate what I said earlier. I see big change in the future. I got to say, my son is in this industry, and that's how I got a couple of those questions I asked. But the trend that I'm hearing is that a lot of the older people that have been in the industry are taking the jobs in the public sector, and then the new talent, the talent we're looking for now is demanding to go hybrid. And so I would say that we're probably going to have to look that way for the future. That's all I have.
Thank you, Member Harriman. Member Irving.
No discussion.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
None.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Becerra.
No discussion.
Thank you. And the chair has no discussion and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez,
No.
Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
All right, thank you. So the council has taken action to adopt the recommendation as set forth on the agenda. With that, we're going to move on to item number 10. This is the Pet Assistance and Support Program, Round 3. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item, because we had been a recipient of the previous Pet Assistance and Support Grant, Round 2, we were automatically eligible for additional funds that were allocated by the state to support this effort. So effectively, for Round 2 recipients such as ourselves, we were entitled to receive a supplement, in this case, in the order of an additional $15,959 in grant money. Collectively, the PASS or the PAS grant money is going to support our animal kenneling effort at the interim shelter at FCLA and can be used to support furthering our efforts at the Wellness Center once it becomes operational. So with that, this item is effectively receiving the funds and creating an appropriation on both the revenue side and the expense side to accommodate the receipt and the expenditure of funds towards our kenneling efforts. So with that, the author on this item is your code enforcement official, Mr. George Duran. He's certainly available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the City Council adopt resolution number 23-020, approving the acceptance of additional funding offered by the Pet Assistance and Support Program Round 3 funding in the amount of $15,959, amend the fiscal year 2022-23 budget, and authorize the city manager or his designee to process all documents required for program administration.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to technical questions as it relates to the staff report, beginning with Member Irving.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Not at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
No questions.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Becerra.
No questions.
Thank you, and the chair has no question and invites a motion from the council.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt staff recommendations.
Thank you. We have a first.
I'll
and is there a
second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. We're going to begin with discussion on the pending motion with Member Irving.
Well, all I want to say is it's always good to receive money. And so I want to say thank you to Mr. Duran and your staff for your efforts in securing additional funds for the pet sheltering. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Irving. All right, Member Harriman.
I have none.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Not at the moment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Becerra. Mayor Pro Tem, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Hello,
I'm sorry.
can you hear me?
Do you have any comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. And the chair has no comments on the pending motion. Closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez,
Yes.
Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has adopted staff recommendation as posted on the agenda. Moving on to item number 11. This is the interagency loan agreement by and between the City of Victorville on behalf of Victorville Municipal Utility Service and the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item actually helps further the efforts by the Victorville Municipal Utility Services Department in actually helping it finance the construction of its interconnect with the Kern River Pipeline, basically to expand its natural gas capabilities at SCLA. And so effectively to help fund it, we've identified funds that the airport has, largely resulting from having sold properties that it didn't originally envision selling, effectively generating monies for itself that don't have intended purposes at this time. And so with that, the airport has been willing to make available $2 million in the form of a loan to VMIS so that VMIS can help construct and pay for that system. Effectively, the loan is prescribed term with an interest rate equivalent to LAIF, and will be paid back entirely to the airport. So with that, this item is co-authored as it involves two departments, Mr. Eric Ray, your airport director, and Ms. Brenda Hampton, your director of electric utility services. They're both available for any questions or comments you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That your Honorable City Council and Southern California Logistics Airport Authority Board of Directors approve the interagency loan agreement between the City of Victorville on behalf of Victorville Municipal Utility Services and the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority in the amount of $2 million.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to technical questions for clarification, we're going to begin with you, Member Gomez.
None, thank you.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
I have none.
Thank you, Member Irving.
Well, I'm reading it, so no, I don't have any questions. I was concerned about the term to repay. It's 5 years, correct? Somebody?
Mr. Metzler?
That's correct. I'm sorry.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Becerra?
No questions, ma'am.
Thank you. And I had one, but I no longer have it because Member Irving asked it. So with that said, the chair is going to move on and invite a motion from the City Council and the SCLAA Board of Directors.
Move to adopt staff recommendations.
Thank you, Member Irving. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second, a first and a second. Moving on to discussion on the pending motion. Member Irving?
No discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
No discussion.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Thank you. The chair has no discussion and closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez,
No.
Councilmember Harriman,
Yes.
Councilmember Irving,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Thank you. So the City Council and the SCLAA Board of Directors has taken action to adopt the recommendation as stated on the agenda. Moving now on to item number 12. This is the Clean California Local Grant Program application for I-15 Interchanges Beautification Project. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Really to support our land use element goal to create an aesthetically pleasing community, we've identified a funding opportunity where in this particular case, we're proposing to submit a grant application in the order of $4 million, which if awarded would require a local match in the order of $500,000. And the real focus for this particular grant is to try to focus on beautifying entryways into the city, particularly at interchanges along the I-15, envisioned at this point as either Bear Valley Road or La Mesa Nisqually interchanges. So with that, that's the vision is to effectively try to make the entryways nicer, similar to a lot of interchanges you see either down the hill or perhaps even as you go out, leaving the desert, heading out to Vegas, just to really make a nicer statement about the community folks are driving through. So with that, this is just a grant application. It's been co-authored by your city engineer, Mr. Brian Gangler, also your city planner, Mr. Scott Webb. They're both available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council take the following actions. Adopt resolution number 23-026, approving the application for Clean California Local Grant Program application for the I-15 interchanges beautification project, approve city matching funds not to exceed $500,000, and authorize the city manager or his designee to process all documents required for grant administration.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to technical questions for clarification, beginning with Member Gomez.
None, thank you.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
Yeah, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine because I've been complaining about Caltrans for quite a while. So I was just a couple things for clarification, and I know that we talked about it earlier, but the improvements, if they're not acceptable by Caltrans, and we move forward with them, they must be maintained by the city rather than Caltrans.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I can answer that question. So yes, any improvements that are, quote, non-standard would need to be maintained by the city. One example is their standard fencing is chain link. So if we install wrought iron fencing, the city would be responsible for maintaining that.
Now, you knew I was going to ask that, didn't you? Okay, well, I think it's great. I think it's a great grant, and we only have to match 500,000 of it. Not is that? Am I reading that right?
Yes, that's right.
So we get to put some theme entering and exiting our city now instead of those plain looking on and off ramps.
Yeah, Mr. Webb and I have had discussions with the consultant that is assisting us. And we've also had some discussions with Caltrans staff, and yes, there are a variety of options, including a kind of a theme or a welcome feature for the city. So there are quite a few options available. The only caveat really is that the city would be required for maintaining those, but a lot of those are very low maintenance. They would only require replacement far into the future, or if they happen to get damaged.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harriman. Member Irving.
No, I don't have any questions, but I am very excited about the possibilities if we are awarded this grant. So,
thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem, any questions?
No, just maybe in the future, any of can capture.
Thank you. All right, and just a very quick question. So it sounds like there are design options on this. Will those come to the council?
I think we anticipated that. Yes. Should we be successful in getting a grant, I think we had planned on taking that through the process. And Mr. Webb might be able to add some more comments on that, on what we would envision as the process to review the design.
Sure. I mean, I presumed that we would get it, but that in mind.
Yes, with the grant, there would be a public outreach effort, which would culminate with awarding a contract designer and construction commencing after that.
Great. And that would include a design.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. With that said, I have no further questions, and I invite a motion from the council.
move to adopt staff's recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion. Member Irving.
No discussion.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
Just one thing real fast. I'm thinking that we'll probably reach out to the public for a theme, maybe, something like that. Other than that, I have no comments.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, comments?
No, ma'am, no comments.
Thank you. So I'm thinking much like you, Member Harriman. I look forward to this. I am presuming, because I choose to think positively, that we're going to get the grant, and I look forward to community input on this. and making Victorville more of a standout in our region because we are a standout in so many other ways. So looking forward to that. All right, with that said, the discussion period's now closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez?
Yes.
Councilmember Harriman?
Yes.
Councilmember Irving?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Becerra?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. So the council has taken action to adopt staff recommendation as to that item and how it's presented on the agenda. Moving on now to item 13. This is our city manager reports. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. A few items just to take note of this weekend, which is one of our very popular events. This weekend on Saturday, April 22nd, 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. It's our community cleanup day. We currently have close to 500 volunteers already signed up to participate, and they'll be working at 40 locations around the city to pick up roadside litter or even litter found just out in our open desert. So amazing event. We do this twice a year. And so the first of this calendar year will be this coming Saturday. On the recreation side, and this has been a really fun event that we've participated in over the last few years, Victorville Sings is back. We're currently accepting a registration for the next Victorville Sings competition. That's where the top 15 finalists to perform at the Concert in the Park series this summer. So it's been a big hit for us. This event is open for youth ages 8 through 17, and contestants will compete for fun prizes. And this year's winning title is the Victorville Sings Champion. We do charge a little bit of a registration fee. It's only $5, and those interested can register online at victorvilleca.gov/recreation. And our first round of auditions, we've already identified a date. That'll be on Wednesday, May 17th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the VAC Center. I'm sorry, the Victorville Activities Center. So looking forward to that. On the building side, we have tenant improvement work starting on what some of us will remember as the former Builders Emporium building over there at 7th and La Paz. It was before we had the Home Depots of the world. Superior Grocers is actually starting work, and they'll, once completed with the tenant improvements, they'll be taking over that building with a new grocery store. So with that, those are my items. As usual, I'll also forward the detail report that has update of all the other projects throughout the city that we're monitoring. That way, if there's a particular interest, you can peruse through those. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. That's all I have at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Metzler. All right, we're going to move on to item number 14. This is discussion and possible action regarding upcoming agenda items. Member Gomez.
Yes.
Requests.
Motion for discussion and possible action of no more than 60 days for an agenda to review any issues related to data and written reports of the San Bernardino County Police whose cases sustain any legal realms with documentation that interconnect with public or private agencies that will speak to any type of excessive use of force related to any Victorville resident, non-resident, immigrant, or human being/beings.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'm not sure that this is within our purview, but I'm going to ask for a second. Is there one? Hearing no second, the motion dies. Any other requests, Member Gomez?
Yes. Motion for discussion and possible action of no more than 60 days for review of any issues related to any related issues that pertain to acquisitions of property, relocation and demolition, rehabilitation of residential and non-residential structures, construction, public facilities, and improvement activities thereof, where signatures of the city attorney Andre D. Bernowski have been placed since his contractual inception, and other city employees that appear on these legal notices or documents.
Thank you. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies. Anything further?
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Harriman, any requests?
I have none.
Thank you. Member Irving, any requests? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Becerra, any requests?
She's not online now.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then I'll bounce back to her. The chair requests a discussion and possible action item at the soonest possible meeting for the council to take up whether it may wish to provide a monthly mileage allowance, and I don't know if that's the proper language, but you'll get what I mean in just a moment, of $250 and $150 for the mayor and mayor pro tem respectively. The intent would be to defray the increasing costs of mileage while performing the extra duties required of those positions. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Gomez?
No.
Councilmember Harriman?
Yes.
Councilmember Irving?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no and Mayor Pro Tem Becerra not being online.
All right, thank you. All right, with that said, and again, just one more before I move on, I want to make sure she's not online for any requests. She's still not online?
Correct, she just texted me.
Okay, gotcha.
She's not going to join back.
Gotcha. All right, so we're now going to move on to item 15. This is our final item, which is reports from council members, beginning with Member Gomez.
None today, thank you.
Thank you, Member Harriman.
I just real quick, I'm really happy about this Caltrans thing because I'm telling you, this has just been something that's been bugging me for years, okay? You go down below and they build bridges with themes stamped into the concrete, okay? Citrus groves, this, that, and they build bridges up here and it's nothing, just plain old concrete. So I'm really excited about this. I'm looking forward to the community interacting with it to give us some theme to everything. And I just think when you think of how many people pass through Victorville from the valley to go to Las Vegas, and I talk to a lot of people, I grew up down there, a lot of friends down there. Everyone just can't believe how big we're growing. But the first thing they say is, why does the freeway look, can't they do something better with that chain link fence? That thing gotta go. Anyways, great job, you guys.
Okay, so Mr. Harriman, do you have anything as to reports?
I have no report.
Okay, Member Irving.
I don't have any reports.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Becerra is not going to join us?
Correct.
Correct. All right, so just really quickly, just a few things. I was honored, as per usual, to attend the Public Works Day at Sunset Ridge Park with a number of schools, our fourth graders, who got to see how it's done in Victorville. And hopefully from that, they learned the great things that our public works folks do, and we may have future employees from that. But it was, I have to say, our staff surely stepped up and made it a fun day for all of those fourth graders. They had a grand time for sure. I also attended the audit committee meeting that was the prelude to the presentation that we received this evening. I'm on that committee together with Mayor Pro Tem Becerra. I also went to the ribbon cutting for Hannah's Nursery and Landscaping. And let me just tell you, on Bear Valley Road, if you haven't been there, it's quite something because they really do want to give back to the community. They're not about making a dollar. They're about making sure that they provide quality products at an affordable rate. They're not interested really in profit, which is, when do you ever hear that? They're amazing folks. So I was so happy to be a part of that. And then also I attended the City Leaders Summit with the League of California Cities, together with my colleague, Member Irving, Mayor Pro Tem Becerra, and City Manager Keith Metzler. It was a fruitful time. We got to speak with quite a few of our local legislators on those things that are important to not only Victorville, but our region. And we made sure that our voice was heard, and we made sure that the voices of our constituencies are heard through us. So that was a very productive meeting. With that said, that concludes my reports, and our business for this evening is also concluded, as there's no other business before us. And so as a matter of housekeeping, all council members, staff, and audience members will kindly vacate council chambers in City Hall within 10 minutes, so that's 7:34 p.m., so that these facilities may be cleaned and secured for the evening. Members of the public are not permitted behind the dais. This meeting is adjourned. Everyone, thank you for a fabulous meeting.